everyone, and welcome to Mr. Simplifies Tutorials. In this tutorial, we're going to look at Cattell's trait theory of personality. But before we begin, I'd like to request you guys to like this tutorial and use the comment section to recommend topics to be covered in this channel. Now, human beings have always been trying to understand human personality, and also in a variety of ways. We've previously looked at Golden Allport's trait theory in this channel, and here we'll look into Raymond Cattell's concept of personality, his classification of traits, and also his popular 16 personality factors. Now, Raymond Cattell referred to personality as a way to understand how a human being will react in a particular situation. He came up with a specific formula to predict a person's behavior, and that formula is as follows. So R is a function of S and P. Now here, R is a person's response, which can be doing, thinking, or just verbalizing. F is a function. S is the stimulus provided by the situation at hand, and P refers to the person's personality structure, which is heavily influenced by personality traits. We can say that a person's response in any situation is a function of, or is basically dependent on, two variables: the type of stimulus and the person's personality. Now, Cattell proposed that P consists not only of traits, but also non-trait variables like moods, situations, and social variables. But the study of traits is essential as it is a quantifiable factor when it comes to human personality. Now, what are traits? According to Cattell, traits are stable and predictable characteristics of a person and reflect a person's ability to respond consistently across circumstances and over time. Cattell identified a number of traits and later used factor analysis to reduce the number down further. Factor analysis is a statistical procedure used to identify common factors in a large dataset and cluster these items together to reduce the number logically. And how did Cattell get to this data for his factor analysis? Cattell believed that in order to get a complete and unbiased measure of personality, one must understand the individual's total behavior, which Cattell called the personality sphere. Cattell believed that this could best be accomplished by taking a 24-hour sample period in a person's life and collecting three types of data, which are as follows. The L data, or also called the life data. This is the data measured out of behavior in everyday situations that life throws at us, like interactions with peers, performance measures, like grades, etc. Q data, which is also questionnaire data. Now, this is a measure of a person's own rating about his or her behavior, feelings, and thoughts, preferably derived from a questionnaire. The next type of data is T data, which is objective test data, and this refers to a person's reactions in experiments in a lab setting. Here, a person's performance is scored in a controlled environment, and the data is then derived. And this is how the data is derived to be used in the factor analysis. Now, once traits are identified, factor analysis is used to narrow this list down further. Categories of traits. Traits can basically be classified into various factors or trait categories, which are as follows: source traits, surface traits, constitutional traits, environmental mold traits, ability traits, temperament traits, dynamic traits, common traits, and unique traits. Now we look into each of these with descriptions. Source traits. Now, these traits are the basic underlying structures which form the building blocks of personality. Now, these exist at a deeper level of personality and ultimately determine observed behavior in human beings. These are the most significant traits, and we will be revisiting these traits in this tutorial in greater detail. Surface traits. These are visible qualities or surface level qualities in human beings. These traits can easily be seen by other people. At the positive end of the spectrum, these can include things like helpfulness or generosity. But surface traits aren't consistent over time and are therefore not as important as some of the other trait types. Constitutional traits. These come from biological and physical conditions of the person. For instance, a person recovering from a drug addiction could suffer withdrawal symptoms and be irritable and anxious. Environmental mold traits. These traits arise out of a person's social and physical environment. These can explain how a person from an urban environment could behave differently to a person from a rural environment. Ability traits. These demonstrate a person's skill and effectiveness in pursuing a goal. For instance, musical aptitude can be considered to be an ability. Temperament traits. These direct towards emotional qualities or a person's temperament. Dynamic traits. These traits are motivational elements that influence human behavior. These are powerful traits that direct people towards particular goals that they're themselves assigning to their own self. Common trait. These are cultural traits which are shared by all members of the same or a similar culture, but can be to varying degrees. Hence, it's common amongst all of those people. And unique traits. These are rare traits which are unique to certain individuals or groups of individuals and aren't commonly found in other people. As promised, let's delve deeper into source traits. Now, we've looked at Allport's trait theory in this channel and understand that Allport identified over 4,000 traits. Now, Cattell used this list developed by Allport, reduced the synonyms and used factor analysis to narrow the list down even further, and basically came down to 16 traits called source traits, and these are also called as 16 personality factors. These 16 factors are as follows alongside the personality implication of a low or a high score against each factor. Now, it is these factors that Cattell used to devise his popular 16PF personality questionnaire, which is still used in recruitment and counseling. So it is extremely important and it is one of the most significant works or contributions provided by Cattell. And now we look into his 16 personality factors or source traits and understand the implication of a low score description and a high score description. The first factor is A or warmth. Now, a low score implies reserved tendencies like detachment, being critical, being aloof, or being stiff. A high score description can mean outgoing behavior, being warm, being easygoing, being participating. The next factor is B, which is intellect. And a low score description can mean being, having a less concrete thought process. And a high score description can mean higher intelligence, being bright, having abstract thinking. The next factor is C, emotional stability. A low score description means being affected by feelings, being emotionally less stable, easily upset, and being changeable. A person's mind gets changed quite easily. And a high score description can mean emotional stability, maturity, and calmness. E is aggressiveness. A low score means being humble, mind easily led, docile, or accommodating. And a high score description obviously means being aggressive, assertive, stubborn, and also being competitive. F is liveliness. A low score can mean being quite sober, having low energy, and being serious in most situations. And a high score description means being happy-go-lucky and enthusiastic. And G means dutifulness, and a low score description means a complete disregard of rules at times, and a high score description means being persistent and moralistic. H is social assertiveness, and a low score description can mean being shy and threat sensitive, and a high score description can mean being uninhibited and socially bold. I is sensitivity. A low score description can mean being tough-minded, self-reliant, and realistic, so very low sensitivity. And a high score description can mean being tender-minded, sensitive, clinging, and overprotected. The next factor is L, paranoia. Now, a low score description can mean being trusting and accepting whatever comes their way. A high score description can mean being suspicious, hard to fool, and a person who doesn't trust other people easily. M is abstractedness, and a low score description can mean being practical and down to earth. A high score description can mean being imaginative but absent-minded. N is introversion. Now, a low score description can mean being forthright, unpretentious, and genuine. And a high score description can mean being polished and socially aware. Factor O is anxiety, and a low score description can mean being self-assured, secure, complacent, and serene. And obviously, a high score description can mean being apprehensive, insecure, worrying, troubled, and basically very high anxiety levels. Q1 is open-mindedness, and a low score description can mean being conservative, respecting traditional ideas, and a high score description can mean being experimenting, liberal, and free thinking. Factor Q2 is independence. A low score description can mean being group dependent, or basically less independent, being a joiner, and also being a good follower. And a high score description essentially means self-sufficiency, resourcefulness, and a person can be trusting his or her own self. Q3 is perfectionism, so a low score description is undisciplined self-conflict, follows urges, and is careless of social rules. And again, a perfectionist would be controlled, extracting, socially precise, and could be quite compulsive at the same time. Q4 is tension, so a low score description can mean a person is relaxed, tranquil, unfrustrated, and composed, and a high score description can mean that a person is tense, frustrated, but is driven. Now, Cattell is most renowned for his work on personality and traits. However, he also contributed to other areas of research, including proposing his stages of development. He proposed 6 principal life stages: infancy, childhood, adolescence, maturity, middle age, and old age. These are his 6 stages, and of all of his stages, Cattell laid a higher emphasis on adolescence, covering the years of 14 and 23 approximately. He proposed that this is the stage of psychological distress, and extreme forms of these distresses can lead people to extreme behaviors. At the same time, it is also the age of curiosity and intuition, and Cattell observed that genius minds often live all their lives in a state of adolescence. So they have this never-ending curiosity in them. Cattell was also interested in measuring intelligence and aptitude. Now, this is all, however, out of scope for this tutorial. I just wanted to touch up on the fact that personality is not the only aspect that Cattell covered, but I want to also keep this short and concise. So I thank you very much for your attendance as always, and as always, please like this tutorial, support this channel by sharing the content that you like, and also use the comment section to recommend topics that you want covered in this channel. And thank you very much. Take very good care of yourself. Thank you. Bye.